Next up, we have Rita Moir coming to entertain and read some stories for us. I first met Rita in the mid-1980s when she actually interviewed me for a magazine article. That wasn't her big break, but she did persevere. And since then, she's lived and worked all over the place. Even before that, she's been in Prince Rupert, Sudbury, Freeport, Nova Scotia, Brandon, Lethbridge, Fargo, St. Paul, Vancouver, Edmonton, Nelson, Castlegar, and finally here. She's produced several radio plays on CBC. Her first book, Survival Gear, was published by Polestar Press right here in Winlaw. Her second book, Buffalo Jump, A Woman's Travels, won the BC Book Prize and the Van City Prize as well. She's now starting to write stories set in the Slocan Valley, and she's going to share a couple of them with us this afternoon. Rita Moir.
So, should I have a mic here? We'll see how this goes.
Yeah, you go.
How's that? I mean, went to all this trouble to have a microphone. Should we have it? Okay. Is this like right in front or right in front kind of?
More directional, it is better.
Like this? Okay? Yeah. Okay. So, when I was a journalist many years ago, you'd write a story and it would be published the next day or not published the next day, and you'd go on to the next one. When I started writing fiction and creative nonfiction and short stories, and a story didn't work right away, somebody would say, well, you know, you put that in your shoebox and pull it out 10 years later, and this notion was appalling to me, that you could write something and then it wouldn't be published till many years later. Well, starting to write these Slocan Valley stories, some of these stories I did start 15 years ago, but I wasn't ready to write them. It took a lot of time, distance, geography to finally start writing the stories from home. I've written from Nova Scotia and I've written from the prairies, and now I'm starting to write about home. So some of these stories are new and some are old. Some of them are Recreation Commission stories. The Recreation Commission plays such a great role in bringing us together across all our divisions in the Slocan Valley. So I'm going to read a few of those and then a few others. This is called the Glory Hole, and if any of you have ever been up to the Slocan Inn, in the old days anyway, the basement was called the Glory Hole, and it was set up like a mine shaft. So this was written after I'd come back from Edmonton, where I was working, and you know, you go down to the Olympic Fitness Center, and there's the big pool and the fancy everything, and then coming back home and taking my Recreation Commission class in the basement of the Slocan Inn. This is how we keep fit in the Slocan Valley. The warm-up begins at 7 a.m. as I push the car out of the driveway, where it got snowed in overnight. The neighbor, Marcia, is 500 miles away working in Prince George, so I can't call her for help. Of the other neighbors, one's off working at the mill, one's back is bad, and my dog is no help whatsoever. This push and shovel warm-up takes a good hour. It limbers my limbs and it melts the bacon fat out of my aorta. Once I've pushed my Volkswagen Beetle out of the driveway, I keep my heart rate up by steadily scraping the inside of the windshield. Right arm scraping, left arm steering, and hoping to keep the car on the road. Up the narrow, icy, winding, clouded-in valley road, 6 miles, I pick up Bonnie and Sabian in their driveways. They're doing warm-ups too, stomping their feet and flapping their arms. It must be working because there's steam coming out of their noses. Their 6 layers of clothes keeps the ripped Naugahyde car seats, which are still stiff and cold from slicing into them. They grapple their way into the back seat, and we move on to the main highway, talking 6 to the dozen. I see my last passenger, who I'd forgotten about entirely, running down her side road, waving her arms, and I veer over just in time. I feel a terrible whoosh. My left door shutters, and I hear a strangled croaking noise from my passengers. They sound like my favorite rooster when I took him to the vet when he was 6 years old and had cancer, and the vet said he was going to die in about 5 minutes, and he did, in the back of Bonnie Baker's car in the overweighted parking lot. I look back, and my friends look the same as my rooster when he was about to die, their mouths soundlessly opening and closing. Then I understand what just whooshed past us. I see the long load of logs still swaying ahead as the truck driver strains to pull out of the swerve he made to save our lives. I hope everyone in their lives has felt as stupid and as grateful as I did at that moment. My passenger yanks the door open, climbs in beside me, and doesn't look at me. I swallow hard and grind into first, following far behind the log truck driver. We pull into Slocan behind the truck, and I slink my beetle in amongst the few cars huddled in the wind in front of the town's only hotel and bar. It's 9:30 a.m. by now, and we'll be just in time for class. In through the glass doors. The hallways reek of morning bar smells, beer slopped on terry cloth tabletops, and ashes smudged in the bottom of damp ashtrays. All us Jane Fondas wrinkle our noses and clomp downstairs to the glory hole. The glory hole's the place where they hold the air band competitions. Now this is long ago, I don't know if it's the same anymore. It's March, but the plastic silver Christmas tree is still up and decorated. And the red crepe paper from Valentine's is faded to orange, hanging stained and droopy where the tacks came out, still looped along the beams. The walls are painted black. We kick off our boots and shrug out of heavy coats clinging to the shoulders of our sweatsuits. Zena, and some of you will remember Zena, the head of Recreation Commission number 8, pushes a broom around, sweeping up a few beer caps. Her portable tape deck is up on the stage, which is a black platform about 8 inches off the floor. The indoor-outdoor carpet is red. To the right of the platform is a wall-sized black mural of a glory hole. A glory hole is a cave, a mine tunnel, where the miner makes the big strike, the motherlode of a mineral deposit. This area used to be all mines, the world's best galena silver and lead and gold and zinc. There's a place called Galena Bay in Silverton, and there's ghost towns like Sandon that thrive with saloon girls and Chinese laborers and get-rich-quick artists. This hotel has a huge kitchen built especially to handle all the miners, and it's called the Silver Mine Steak Pit. Sabian's mom worked there, and she said that there's no better equipped kitchen around. It's like a mine down here. There's no windows and there's no air. A big L-shaped room that shouldn't be claustrophobic, but now and then someone breathes too hard during the jumping jacks, and they have to race to the fire door, lunge against the crash bar, and gulp in some air and sunlight. The designer made the basement like an authentic glory hole. The pillars supporting the beams have sharp rocks glued all over them, as if they're like rock pillars. You don't want to lose your balance and lurch into them. Implanted in the rocks is a small brass-plated gargoyle that seems to be laughing and leering at us. We've learned to be careful not just of the rocks, but of the floor too, which is scratchy and rough. And the carpet under the carpet is concrete. We bring towels, not for showers as you might think, because there aren't any. The towels cover the grit and the unexplained wet spots. But you know, at least there's toilets here that flush. We all use the toilets when we come, because most of us have frozen water lines at home. Last time my toilet flushed was back in November, when the ground froze deep like rock before we got snow to insulate the water lines. Once those water lines freeze hard a few feet down, you can just forget flushing until spring or summer. It's like my neighbor said last week when someone visiting asked if the toilet worked. "Yeah, sure," he yells, "just don't flush it." And since there isn't much snow except for the dump that blocked my car last night, there's nothing feeding the creek, so even if the lines aren't frozen, the wells will dry up or your water line will be sticking up like a bone in a water box. But, you know, at least at this aerobic splash, we can wash up a bit. We really do have to wash up somehow, because Zena puts us through a real sweat. You might think to look at her that she's a normal person. She doesn't look like a fanatic. But by the time I get home, I feel like I've been hijacked from west to east, and she's left me feeling like a pretzel with high blood pressure. Zena is that deadly combination of Western Calvinism, it's no good unless it hurts, and Eastern Zen Buddhism. If you're really spiritual, it doesn't hurt. After 100 bum lifts, 50 push-ups, 75 jumping jacks, and enough of everything painful enough to jack up our Calvinism, she shifts into mysticism, and she wants us to realign our chakras. I've never been sure what chakras are, but I believe they're part of the spiritual backbone. Now my chakra, which I think of when I do, which is rarely, likes being where it is. It's taken a long time and a lot of effort to get my chakra nice and rigid and under control. Being a good Calvinist, I can get through the painful exercises. What really unhinges my chakra is the enforced relaxation once the exercising is over. My blood's running through my veins like the Slocan River in springtime, and like the river, I want to get moving on down the valley. But no, we have to relax. Zena says we're going to play an imaginary listening game. I know it's just a flimsily disguised form of meditation. We spread towels over the wet spots and cover ourselves in overcoats for the cool down. Now, Zena goes into a trance, and you here in this room, well, maybe you can pretend that you, like a kindergarten child, are lying on a mat, and you will go into this meditative trance with me now. Listen to the sounds of this room, Zena says. Now you can close your eyes. Okay. Listen to the sounds of this room. Okay, handle that. People breathing, fluorescent lights humming, stink bugs colliding with the walls. Thwack. Listen to the sounds of the building. No problem, I've worked in lots of hotels. I can hear the refrigeration unit humming away upstairs and the Silvermine steak pit, the chambermaids swapping out the toilets. Listen to the sounds of Slocan City. My ears strain, but I think I can hear the green chain clacking away at the mill. I can hear the log truck driver swearing about me to his buddies. Listen to the sounds of the Slocan Valley. I feel the first signs of panic. I simply can't hear that far. See, this is a very long valley. Listen to the sounds of the Kootenays. All those mountains are in the way. I'm not receiving Cranbrook. I need an FM transmitter for my brain. Will Zena notice? Will she come over and rap the floor with a long-winded pointer and tell the whole class I'm a phony? Phony Joni? Listen to the sounds of British Columbia. Oh, now that's relaxing. Thousands of people marching in the streets, all hell breaking loose. Listen to the sounds of Canada. I've never even been to Newfoundland. Listen to the sounds of the world. Oh, fine for you, Zena. You've been to India. I've never even been south of Bismarck. I'm flunking meditation. There's no doubt about it. All around me, my friends, women in pink and gray sweatsuits and their Sears catalog runners have achieved nirvana. They've brought their heart rates down to 55. No one else is hyperventilating. Listen to the sounds of the universe. I can't handle it. They're all out in the rings of Saturn, and I'm stuck at the Crescent Valley Junction. Finally, it's over. My friends and neighbors surround me on their towels, half asleep and drooling. They finally emerge, glazed and happy. I feel betrayed. Their chakras are realigned. Mine is completely unhinged. So I'm writing some news stories.
Oh, come on.
1947 for an American aviation magazine by a Rosalind priest named Father Thomas Freeney. And at the time, people didn't believe it was true. Imagine that. But before the magazine would print the story, they wanted 3 signed affidavits from eyewitnesses. And in 1995, a cleanup was going on at the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Roslyn. And a piece of paper was found in the attic dated June 22nd, 1946. First sentence was, "I witnessed the Gagnon helicopter flight in Roslyn over 40 years ago." It was signed by a man named Edward Deschamps, which just goes to prove the old adage about the relationship between truth and fiction.